I recently released a video where I tell a story about a young boy called Tommy who's 13 years old and he's just found adult content on his phone for the first time. At the end of that video I asked the audience 5 questions and I thought it would be a good idea for me to also give my answers on those questions. So that's what this video is about. So, this video that I recently released about Tommy who's 13 years old. If you're new to my channel, just to let you know, occasionally I release these short films, I like to call them, or properly shot videos where I work with a team of people, camera people, sound people, directors, etc. Because I'm trying to communicate these difficult and tricky subjects in the most engaging ways possible, and I always think if I could create the visuals properly, then that would be a great thing. Now at the end of this particular video that we're just about to go through, I asked the audience 5 questions at the end of the video, and I haven't had an opportunity to give my answers, so I thought that this would be a great opportunity for me to do that, give my opinions and my thoughts on the actual video. So the plan is to watch the video from start to finish. I'll let you have a think about it as well, and then we'll talk about it after. So yeah, let's get into this. I've got a story for you. It's about a young boy called Tommy who's 13 years old. And he's at that kind of age where things are starting to change. He's become interested in girls and him and his friends talk about it a lot. But sometimes Tommy feels a little left out of the conversation because he doesn't always understand what's being talked about. So that night he goes home and starts Googling some of the words that he's heard. And at the top of his search list, those words pull up porn sites. So he clicks on the first one and he literally cannot believe his eyes. Endless thumbnails of naked men and naked women doing things that Tommy didn't even know were things. So he starts exploring. Clicks on the first video and watches, clicks on another and watches, clicks on another, but there's something that Tommy doesn't quite understand. In some of the videos, the men are being nasty to the women, sometimes slapping them, sometimes choking them, sometimes even using their private area to gag them so much until they can't breathe. But the women look like they're enjoying themselves, often making noises that sound pleasurable to Tommy. And he's even seen it where they're asking for more, so Tommy comes to the conclusion that that's just the way sex is and continues watching. Now some years pass, Tommy is now 18 years old. He's been watching this pornographic material for 5 years. And he's now started having physical relationships with girls, which feels so incredible to actually be doing it for real rather than always watching it behind a screen. But there's a reoccurring situation that Tommy keeps arriving in. A number of the girls that he's been with have messaged him afterwards saying that he was way too rough and that if he wanted to do the things that he did, meaning the slapping, the choking, the gagging, then they should have at least had a conversation about it before. Now Tommy has seen these messages, but as far as he's concerned, these are the girls that are just frigid. So he's actually written back to a few of them saying that if they had just relaxed, they would have enjoyed it and got into it a bit more. So, how do you feel about Tommy? Do you think he's solely to blame for his attitude? How much of an influence do you think the porn he's been watching has had on him? And do you think there should at least be an age restriction on these types of sites? Do you think some of the responsibility should fall on our shoulders for the lack of conversation and education that we're having with young boys about how to treat girls or how to behave in sexual situations? Let me know what you think. Thank you. Okay. Okay, let's stop it there for a moment. Okay, what do you think about that video? We worked hard to produce that. Trying to find the right studio space, trying to find the right backdrops, trying to find the right setting, getting the script correct, making sure it's not we're not waffling in any moments. It's clear and it's concise. It's to the point. It's communicating it, the subject how I feel I want to communicate it in my head. The editor, Johnny, who I'm working with at the moment, has done a fantastic job on this. His idea to bring the text up during the video, I feel, is so engaging. And I just feel like this storytelling is a great way to really get this subject communicated in a gripping way. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it interesting. Please let me know what you think about it. Please drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about the video. Now, you will see that there were 5 questions, 5 or 4 maybe, questions that I asked the audience at the end of this video. And I wanted to spend some time giving my thoughts and opinions on those questions. Now, I just stopped it here quite nicely on the final frame of the video where we have the text, which is explaining the questions. Now, what I tried to do with this story was I tried to make it as relatable as possible. I tried to tell it in a way where people would be like, oh my God, I can just see how that happens. I can just see how that would happen. Tommy is a young boy. He's at school. He's in the playground. All the boys are talking about girls now. That's the hot topic. That's the conversation that all the boys are talking about now. Obviously, to be in that conversation, you need to know what's being talked about. You remember what you were like at 13 years old. You didn't want to be left out of the conversation. You definitely didn't want to be left out of the conversation. You want to know what the other boys are talking about. So you go home, you Google some of the key words that they're talking about, that they're saying, that you don't know what they're talking. They're laughing and they're joking about certain things, and they're using words you don't understand. So you go home and use Google. Yeah. Back in the day, you didn't have that. Now you've got that. A lot of kids have also got smartphones or the access to the internet. So of course, if you type in a word like, something soft like kissing, I wonder what comes up on your Google search results. Google search results. If you type in something like some of the acronyms that are used, let's say all the boys are giggling about the acronym ATM. If you don't know what ATM is, I don't know whether I can say it in these videos. See, this is a problem. I don't know whether I can say what certain words in these videos or certain phrases in these videos because I don't want YouTube to pull it up as explicit. So I'm not going to say the words of what the phrase of what ATM is. If you don't know it, I suppose you could search it. But let's say the boys are in the playground giggling about ATM. You go home, the boy goes home and searches ATM. And then what is going to come up in the Google search list? We all know what's coming up in the Google search list. So Tommy lives a childhood where he's continuously watching porn because he's a teenager. It excites him. It's exciting. Pornographic pages, the pornographic websites are designed, they're engineered to be so exciting that you can't resist them. That's how they're designed. That's how they're engineered. Of course they're engineered like that because they want you to stay on the pages as long as possible, and they want you to come back to the pages as frequently as possible so that they can get money from the advertising space. Of course it works like that, right? That's not a shock. That's business. That's online business. That's how all online business works. So, a 13-year-old, 14-year-old, 15-year-old, they're gripped by the endless amounts of pornographic material available. Constantly changing. Every time they go on the homepage, it's new. It's a no-brainer. They're children, we're human beings. And as a teenager, your hormones are racing and you're excited by this material. You're on it constantly. Then you grow up. And those videos that you've been watching, in this instance on this story, Tommy's been watching them for 5 years. We're talking about him, the last third of the video is talking about him now being 18 years old. And we're now saying that 5 years of watching
various types of material has programmed his brain to want that in the real world. It's influenced his brain to want that in the real world. That's a better way of putting it. It's influenced his brain to want... Now it's... what's the right word for that? Because I don't think programmed is the correct word. That makes it unrelatable. Then people think, oh, that would never happen to my son. Or that would never happen to a young person. Only a few. Influence maybe... Or... I don't know. I can't think right now about what the proper way to describe that is. But it's... Let's go with influenced. What he wants in the real world. What turns him on. Yeah? It's directly driven his desires. His sexual desires. So when he starts going into the physical... He starts having real relationships with girls. Physical relationships... He starts wanting those things. He starts doing those things. No one's taught him that if he wants to do certain things, you have to have certain conversations with the person who you're getting with. Nobody talked to him about that. So the first question I ask at the end of this video, is Tommy solely to blame for his attitude? Because are we only going to shout at these people who are not behaving in a respectful way in sexual situations? Are we only going to demonize people who are doing those things? Are we only going to be angry at the person that's not behaving correctly or respectably in sexual situations? Or are we going to also look at possible influences that have made that person that way? Now, I'm not saying that all responsibility should be taken away from the person. Responsibility has to be on the person as well. But I believe we need to look at the bigger picture here. Is Tommy solely to blame for his attitude? I wonder what you think. Put your comment in the comment section for that question, please. I'm trying my hardest to get these conversations going between everyone. I don't want it just always to be from me to me talking to you. I want it to be like this. I want it to be a community of us discussing these tough topics. Okay, the next question. How much did the adult content that he's been watching for the past 5 years influence him? I think it's undeniable that what you watch, what you listen to influences you. Who you hang around with influences you. What do they say? They say you are a product of your 5 closest connections. The 5 people who you hang around with the most, you're a product of those people because your peer group influence you, your family influence you, your work colleagues influence you. The video games you play influence you. The books you read influence you. What you watch on TV influences you. What you watch online influences you. I just don't think that's undeniable. I really don't. So how much has that adult content influenced him? Probably, after watching it continuously for 5 years, probably a lot. There's a lady called Holly Ann who is from Australia. It's a connection that I have through this work that I'm doing online. She does similar work. She goes into schools and she has explained to me once that when she goes into schools and she asks the kids and we're talking about young teenagers here, who's watching porn every night, something like that, a number of the children put their hands up. It's not no one. It's not. You don't get a class of people not putting their hands up, and that's kids putting their hand up in answering a question that is a little bit to answer in front of your peers. But people are putting their hands up. I think. Well, you know what? I think people don't want to think about 13, 14, 15-year-olds watching hours of porn every night. You got to remember their hormones. Remember what it was what you were like as a young teenager. I shouldn't say that. this is the way I should phrase that. We all know what it's like to be young teenagers or young adults. Your hormones are racing. My hormones were racing as a youngster. Racing. Honestly. I'm so pleased that I didn't have, that this was not available when I was younger. The endless amounts of porn was not available when I was younger. I'm glad about it. I'm glad. Why am I glad? I should put a bit more information on that. Why am I glad about it? Because I think you're so vulnerable as a child, and you're easily manipulated, easily led as a child, that the pornographic world, the world of pornography online is so vast, and there's so many niches, and there's so much that could lead you astray. There's so much on there that could lead you astray with no one monitoring any of it. It's all kept hush hush. It's all kept in the dark. That industry is like, kind of, everybody knows it's there. Everyone's watching it. Most people are watching it, but no one wants to talk about it. Okay, I've got so much to say. Let's keep moving though. I want to keep this video moving, otherwise we'll get stalled. So let's keep moving. Should there be an age restriction on these types of sites? Well, I mean, come on, that's a given. That's a given. I went to the cinema last weekend, right? Sat down to watch a film called Belfast. And the opening credits come up, and the thing that comes up is the age restriction or the age guidance on that particular film. You cannot sit in on that film unless you are a minimum of 12 years old. Right? We all know there are heavy guidelines to the cinema, the films. You know, there are many films where if you are not 18 years old, it's illegal for you to watch them. Why is pornographic material hasn't got the same thing? Why is that? You can't buy alcohol unless you're 18 because we know that there are dangers with youngsters drinking it. You can't take drugs ever because there are known problems with taking those substances. You're not allowed to drive a car until you're 18. You're not allowed to smoke until you're 18. But you can watch any type of porn that you want freely on the internet at any age. This is crazy. And I have seen that there are sites now that are like, are you over 18? Do we have your consent to show you this material? And you just press yes and then you're in. I've always thought to myself, what happens if you put a credit card verification on pornographic material? To get into the site, you have to put your credit card verification in. That would be one way of filtering or reducing the amount of young people watching this material. Another thing that I find really interesting, for everybody that is watching, for everyone of us that's watching pornographic material, right? Because I'm going to say the large majority are watching it in some frequency. I've got no problem with that. I always want to say, I'm never attacking adults. If you're over the age of 18 and you're watching this, there's no problem. Well, I'm not trying to. Please, I don't ever want my work for anybody to feel if watching pornographic material is part of their thing and it brings something to them. These people are adults, right? These people are adults. But my concern and what I'm trying to address is the young people watching it. But what's very interesting is, and I don't know if I just explained that really that well, my view on that well. Let me try and do better next time, but let's keep moving. My point is, if you had to give your credit card details to get into one of these sites and it pulled up on your statement, no charge, but it just pulled up on your statement, your bank statement, the website address, and that you had registered your card with them, I wonder if so many people would be watching it. Because why? Why would that be? Because there's an embarrassment about it. It's almost like you're a bit embarrassed that you watch it. It's a bit embarrassing that you click on the websites that have pornographic material. It's not, you never go into work and you're like, oh my God, I had a great session on the computer last night. Like, you never say that, do you? Oh my God, I come across this brilliant pornographic material, this porn video last night. It was incredible. Like, you just don't say that kind of thing. You don't say that kind of thing because it's all hush hush. It's all kept behind closed doors. Don't say anything about it. Do it, but don't say anything about it. It's weird. It's weird. Why is it so stigmatized? Okay. Should some of the responsibility fall on our shoulders as adults? Not opening the conversation, having enough dialogue, educating people about, I put in this video, teaching young boys how to behave in sexual situations. Like, why wouldn't we teach young boys how to behave in a respectful manner in sexual situations? Because we want them to behave. We want them to grow up knowing that understanding about consent, understanding about conversation, understanding about what they're doing, and understanding their own desires, where they come from, if they're okay, if they're not okay, all of those conversations. Like, are we failing the young people? So once they've committed a crime or they've done an act that's hurt someone, or they've mistreated someone, we're all in on coming in and being angry with them and shouting at them and possibly even putting them in prison in the extreme examples. But before all of that, before all the crime is done, we don't want to engage. We're all so happy to engage once the crime's been done because we're angry then. But before the crime's been done, before somebody's got hurt, mentally or physically, is where the input from us needs to be, because we're aiming for prevention, yeah? But we don't want to get involved then. You know, the schools don't want to get involved then because it's sex. We don't know how to talk about sex. We don't know how to deal with that situation. So crazy, man. Are we doing enough talking and raising awareness about it? I just don't think we are. That's what a lot of what my aims are. My aims are to just get this subject out in the open. That's what all my channels are about. I'm trying my hardest to get this subject, get these topics in front of as many people as possible. Something I want to mention here is I was so excited to release this video. I honestly thought there'd be such incredible conversations going on in the comments section. I actually released it individually on all my platforms. I usually release just long form videos only on my YouTube channel and then promote them on my social media pages. But for this one, I decided to put the full video on all platforms: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and TikTok. And the reason why I did that is because I wanted to give the opportunity for people to comment in the comment section on that platform, because I know when you direct people to YouTube, a lot of people don't go there because they just don't want to. Fair enough, that's all good. I was surprised at the lack of conversation in the comment section on this particular video. I spoke to my editor a couple of days after we released it, and we just discussed that actually it's just a little, people just don't know whether to say things or not about it. That probably everybody's got an opinion on these questions, these 5 questions. I think everybody's got an opinion about it, but it's like we just don't. What is it? Is it embarrassment about sex, talking about sex? Is it embarrassing? Is it because we never got taught about it when we were kids? We don't know how to talk to. Sorry, let me rephrase that, because I feel like it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting way of putting it. Because we were never taught to about sex when we were young people, is that why we're embarrassed to talk to young people about it? Nobody wants their son or their daughter to have an uncomfortable or not fulfilling, unfulfilling, or nobody wants their son or daughter to have a unfulfilling sex life, right? Everybody wants their son and daughter, when they're adults, to have a fulfilling sex life. Of course we do, because sex is an enjoyable thing. It's an incredible thing that we can do that brings us so much joy. We also don't want our son or daughter to behave in a threatening way to other people. We never want our son or daughter to push anybody to do something that they didn't want to do. And we never want our son or daughter to be on the receiving end of that either. That would horrify us to hear about. That would horrify any parent to hear that their son or daughter went through anything adverse to do with sex. And we'd feel so sad to hear of any young people going through anything adverse to do with sex. But we don't want to really do anything about that. We don't want to do everything necessary that we all agree is necessary to reduce that from happening. That's what I'm trying to get at with these videos. Now look, this is story number 1. You would have seen in the intro, this is story number 1. I'm going to put the link to the full video in the description, the original video. Please do consider going in and commenting on it. On YouTube, I think I got 1 or 2 comments. Please do consider just going in and commenting and putting your opinion or your thoughts on these questions, and be strong about it, be forthcoming about it. Come on, we need to get this thing going. I hope you like the editing. We worked hard on this. It's a great style, I feel, and there's 4 more stories coming. This is 1 of 5, so please keep an eye out for that. I don't know when I'm going to release that. I've got a bank of videos. I feel like I'm going to release them possibly monthly, but I'm still trying to figure that out. So amazing things. I feel like, you know what? I feel like this is a video that I could get into schools with. That's my latest thought. So thank you for watching as always. So much going on this channel. Check it out. Go to all the videos. I'm trying to release videos weekly and just trying to keep the momentum going and build this YouTube community. So as always, thank you for joining. Have a great rest of your day and catch up soon.